Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. For today's session, we are going to be doing a live analysis session. So if you guys have any requests for any specific charts or currency pairs that you'd like me to go through, feel free to just pop them into the chat at any time. We are gonna give about 3 more minutes to let more people join our session before we get started. So in the meantime, let me know if you guys can see me and hear me in the chat. And yeah, feel free to grab yourselves a drink, make yourselves comfortable, and I'll see you guys in about another 2 more minutes. Thanks, everyone. Okay, let's just go ahead and get started. So, again, for those of you guys who've just joined, welcome. Today we are going to do a live analysis session. So if you guys have any requests for any charts, feel free to pop them into the chat. Okay, so as per usual, before we get started, a disclaimer. IC Markets Global does not represent that the material provided here is accurate, current, or complete, and therefore shouldn't be relied upon as such. The information provided here, whether from a third party or not, is not to be considered as a recommendation, an offer to buy or sell, or the solicitation of an offer to buy or sell any security, financial product, or instrument, or to participate in any particular trading strategy. Risk warning: trading forex and CFDs carries a high level of risk to your capital, and you should only trade with money you can afford to lose. Trading forex and CFDs may not be suitable for all investors, so please ensure that you fully understand the risk involved and seek independent advice if necessary. So here's our agenda for today. We're going to start off by looking at a couple of FX majors, followed by any commodities, cryptos, and indices. And lastly, we'll get started with any custom requests. Okay, so I'm your host for today. I'm Melanie. I'm an investment analyst from Rocket, who were finalists for Best FX and Equity Research in the years 2019 to 2021, with a specialization in technical analysis with a focus on Fibonacci retracements, extensions, and projections. Okay, so let me just pull out my trading view and then we can get started. Okay, you guys should be able to see my charts. So let's start off by looking at our DXY. And actually, okay, let's look at here. So I like to start off by looking at our higher time frames first so that we get an idea of the direction that prices are headed towards. So on our DXY, we can see prices are kind of fluctuating. They do look like they are rising in recent times. Okay, and on our daily time frame, we have prices moving in this ascending, okay, not trend channel, but trend line. Okay, so in order for it to be a valid trend line, we basically need at least 3 touches on your trend line. So here we have, you can see we have 3 swing lows here. Okay, now on our 4-hour time frame, can you see prices are look like they're moving upwards as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and do our analysis on this time frame. So I like to pull back as far as we can so that we can see how significant these levels are. So okay, so I'm gonna leave it like this. This is my pivot. My first resistance will be up here, and my first support here. Okay, so generally we like to follow the direction of the trend. So we saw previously in our daily time frame it was kind of bullish, kind of in moving in an uptrend. So now in our 4 hours we can also see price moving upwards. So that's where we will go. Um yeah, we would only, change or expect there to be a reversal if there are very obvious signs of a reversal. So, for example, if your Fibonacci levels, if there's a very strong confluence area, for example, or if your indicators suggest that there might be a reversal, you know, um, things like that, then we might consider one, but otherwise we'll generally follow the trend. So, so I have my horizontal levels. Now I'm gonna go in with my Fibonacci levels. So I'm gonna start off with our retracement. So you can see my 23.6 lines up nicely with my pivot. Okay, I'm actually gonna place an intermediate resistance here as well, just because we do have price testing this level a couple of times. Okay, now I'm going in with a Fibonacci extension, and I can see that my 127 lines up nicely with my intermediate level. Okay, so the Nike tick shape that we're looking at is like this. And for Nike tick, so like this, obviously a Nike tick looks like that. If it's inversed, then it'll look like this. So for Nike tick, we would look at the levels that are greater than 100, namely the 127 as well as the 161.8. Okay. Now I'm going in for another retracement. I can see that my 78.6 is kind of in line with my intermediate resistance again. So again, these levels don't have to line up exactly, just as long as they're kind of close to each other, that's good enough, because we're looking for confluence areas more so than specific levels. Okay, so this is our confluence area at our intermediate resistance. Okay, so now let's take a look at some indicators. So I like to start off with Ichimoku and MACD because it's very easy to see the signals. At one glance, you can see exactly what the signals are for both of these indicators. So for Ichimoku, price is moving above the cloud, which is a bullish signal. And on our MACD, you can see really clearly this is also a bullish signal. Okay, so they both support our bullish analysis that price is going to continue to move upwards. Okay, so that's for DXY. I just wanted to briefly mention gold as well, since we're talking about DXY. So if we compare gold and DXY on the same price scale, you can kind of see that whenever there is a dip in the price of DXY, comparatively, there is a rise in gold. So the orange line graph that I have added here is gold, price of gold, and of course, the normal candlestick chart is our original DXY chart. Okay, so yeah, so what I just wanted to show here is that DXY is inversely correlated to gold, not proportionally. So you do see that the amount that it drops by might not be the same amount that gold rises by, but whenever there is a drop in gold, we can expect the opposite for DXY and vice versa. Okay, so that's just an FYI, especially if you are scalping, that might be useful information for if you are looking at DXY as well as gold. Okay, now let's move on. I guess we can go ahead and look at gold since we are, talking about it anyway. So on our gold weekly time frame, you can see prices kind of moving upwards on our weekly time frame. Now on our daily time frame, prices are also moving upwards, generally upwards. But if we zoom in and look at our 4 hours, you can see it's fluctuating a lot more. Okay, so this is our 4 hours, this is our 1 hour time frame. Okay, just gonna see if I can find any trend channels or trend lines here. Okay, I don't think so. Okay, but we can all see that it is moving in a downtrend. So I'm gonna analyze this on our 4 hour time frame instead. Okay, just because I think for me personally, I find this easier to analyze on, but it's completely up to you. Okay, so here's my pivot. I'm gonna place this here first. first resistance up here. So this is purely graphical. I'm just going off of the swing highs, the swing lows, any important levels that I want to take note of. That's all I'm doing for now. Okay, and then the next step would then be to go in with our Fibonacci levels to support these levels. But you can change these levels after that if you wish. Okay. Um okay, what happened? Okay, my 161.8, you can see it lines up nicely with my first support. Okay, this Nike tick again is inverted. Okay, and going in with projection. Okay, none of these levels line up. Okay, my 78.6 lines up nicely with my first support. So for projections, we use this tool, which is the fib extension. And for that, we use these kind of lightning bolt shapes or like a flash kind of symbol. Okay, and we are projecting the level that it will go towards. So we use three levels for this, the 78.6, 61.8, and 100%. Yeah, I think that might be all the levels that we have. So I am, okay, because prices are kind of fluctuating now, I'm just gonna go in with a sell if price breaks below this pivot here. Okay, but only if it breaks below the pivot. Okay, let's look at some indicators to see what the momentums are. Price is moving below the Ichimoku cloud, so it does support our bearish signal. MACD, on the other hand, doesn't really support. Yeah, it doesn't support our analysis, so I'm gonna get rid of that. If we maybe look at stochastic, okay, it's not telling us much. RSI, um, okay, not much as well. Maybe Bollinger Bands. Okay, no. Okay, so I think for most of our indicators, they don't really tell us much. So when it comes to this kind of situation, right, we just have to okay, wait, I think we might have, okay, no. Okay, so when this happens, which is normal, it's fine. We'll just follow our Fibonacci as well as the general trend, which, as we talked about earlier, was a downtrend. So if price breaks below this pivot, then we'll go in for a sell towards our first support. If it rebounds, then we'll go in for a buy towards our first resistance. Okay, that's for gold. Okay, if okay, we can also take a look at this week's events. Forgot to do that at the start. But basically, we like to use Forex Factory, but you can use any economic calendar that you prefer. So I just like prefer to use Forex Factory personally. So if we look at 17 to 21, this is the events that we have for this coming week. I have it filtered to only look at the medium to high impact events. That's indicated by these orange and red icons. If you click on this green icon here, you can filter out any event types that you're looking at specifically and any currencies that you are currently trading as well. If you want, you can look at the low impact as well as any non-economic events. This would include any bank holidays and other non-economic events. But yeah, we basically just like to look at the orange and red because if you can see, if we look at everything, it is quite a lot of events for each week to take note of. So I just want to look at the main events that will cause the greatest change or greatest impact on our charts, which would then be the orange and red icons, medium to high impact events. And the most important thing would probably be to take note of the timing as well as when the data is actually released. Do take note of the forecasted as well as the actual data. Um, and yeah, you can see how it impacts the charts, especially if you are scalping or you're doing intraday trading. This would be quite helpful on the smaller time frames from maybe 30-minute, 1 hour time frames. Anything below 30 minutes we try to avoid simply because um when you go down to the lower time frames, it tends to get a little bit noisy and a bit more difficult to analyze on because prices are constantly changing. Okay. Are there any other questions? Any other requests? Okay, so we've done DXY, we've done gold. Let's take a look at some major pairs now. I'm gonna look at Canadian since for this week we do have some CAD data. Okay, then we can look at some euro. We can look at euro dollar as well as maybe Aussie dollar as well, since tomorrow the cash rate is being announced, which is a pretty high impact event. Okay, let's start off with Canada. So now weekly time frame, it does look like prices are moving upwards. Okay, they are moving in an ascending trend line. On our daily time frame, it does also look like it's moving upwards. And on our 4 hour time frame, pretty bullish as well. Okay, so the general trend is bullish. Okay, this is gonna be my pivot and my intermediate resistance over here and my first resistance up here. Okay, my first support just below. Okay, so if you are going for an entry from our pivot, um, this would be your entry, and my intermediate would probably be your partial profit, maybe. And then my take profit would then be my first resistance. So the reason why I like to have partial profit and then your take profit is especially in the case when we have two swing highs like this, okay, because there is a possibility that price might reverse off of this resistance again, simply because it has done so in the past. Actually, it has done so 3 times here. Okay, over here as well. So you can see it's a pretty significant level that I want to take note of. So I want to make sure that I catch this profit before it reverses just in case. Um, yeah, hope that makes sense. Um, yeah, hi, good morning. It's actually evening on my side. Um, but yeah, welcome. If you have any questions or any requests for any charts, feel free to pop them into the chat as well. Yeah, so where was I with this? Fibonacci levels. So now we're gonna go in with our Fibonacci levels. I'm gonna go in with my projection first. Okay, my 61.8 and my 100% both line up. So again, the shape that we're looking at is like this. Okay, like a lightning bolt. I might have a Nike tick here, but I'm not too sure. Okay, my 127 does line up with that intermediate resistance as well. See, so this intermediate level is actually a confluence area, which is basically when two or more Fibonacci levels line up. So that's why I want to make sure I catch that move before price reverses off of it. Okay, especially since it's such a large confluence area. Um 78.6 retracement. Again, adding to that confluence area. Okay. Yeah, I think that's about all the levels that we have. Okay. Now, going in with our indicators, price is moving above the cloud, so it is giving us a bullish signal. Whereas MACD is kind of giving us a bearish signal, so I'm going to get rid of that so it doesn't support our analysis. Malaysia Bands isn't telling us much. If we look at maybe our moving averages, okay, you can see price kind of moving above the moving averages, but it is still it's kind of moving above it, but not quite yet. So I'm just gonna KIV both of these. And for our stochastic, okay, we have prices moving in this ascending trend line. Okay, so it also supports our bullish analysis. Okay. Okay, we have a request for dollar franc, so let's take a look at that. So on our weekly time frame, it is pretty it's kind of ranging. There isn't really a clear trend. On our daily time frame, it looks like prices are kind of dropping here. Now on our 4 hours time frame, yeah, it's pretty much moving in a downtrend as well. Okay, so this level here is going to be my intermediate support. Okay, actually, this might be my pivot. Okay, and then my first resistance or my intermediate resistance over here. Okay, first resistance up here, and my first support just here. Okay, so going in with our retracement, we have our 38.2 that lines up nicely with our pivot, and also this 50%. 38 and 50. If we go in with our projection, okay, no. Okay, so don't be afraid to zoom in or zoom out as much as you want, especially on these kind of charts where it's really, prices are really ranging. Okay, so my 38 lines up nicely here. Might have a Nike tip here. Yeah, my 161.8. Okay, the Nike tip is like this. Okay, and maybe there's a projection here. You know, even though the 61.8 lines up with our intermediate resistance, we can't use it because if you follow the shape, here we're using a projection. So it's a lightning bolt shape. It's already broken out of this level here. And this 100 also, it has been broken out of. So it doesn't really line up with our pivot. Okay. Yeah, I think that's all the levels that we have. Going in with Ichimoku Nagdi, again, both of these support our bearish signal that prices are going to drop. Okay, price is moving below the cloud. MACD is also giving us a bearish signal. Okay, okay, I thought we had a descending trend channel there, but no. Okay, I think, yeah, that's it. So if price breaks below our pivot, I'm going for a sell towards our first support. If we look at other indicators as well, you see the Bollinger isn't telling us much here. On moving averages, price is moving below the moving averages, so it is giving us a bearish signal. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, this is my third webinar of the day, so kind of, can you please, yeah, let me know if there are any other requests as well. Okay, we did mention we were gonna look at euro. Yeah, euro because of all of the PMI and also Aussie dollar because of tomorrow's cash rate announcement. So those are the currency pairs that we'll look at. Um, UK oil. Okay, let's take a look at that. Would that be Brent crude? Okay, so let's start off with our weekly time frames. Okay, I don't use a fixed risk reward because I feel like every chart is different. So if you use a fixed risk reward of 100 pips, then it might not work for every chart. So it really depends on the chart that we're looking at. And just try to make sure that my the ratio is obviously pretty big, but I can't really control that as well. So yeah, I can't really answer that. It depends on the chart itself. Yeah, I can go through Bitcoin after this as well. Yeah, so let's finish this first. So yeah, weekly time frame prices are kind of fluctuating. On our daily time frame, okay, daily time frame, it looks like prices are kind of dropping here. And on a 4 hour time frame, yeah, looks like it's moving in this downtrend. But this is not a trend line, okay? Let's see. Yeah, we don't have any trend lines or trend channels here, but let's go ahead and add our horizontal levels. So here's my pivot. My first support just here. Okay, and I'm going in for sell towards my first support, just purely following the general trend. Okay, now we go in with um Fibonacci levels, 50% lines up with my first resistance. 38.2 lines up with my first support. Okay, no. Okay, I think that's all the levels we have actually. 50% retracement and our 38.2% retracement. Um, Unless I label this as my first support and then this as my intermediate. Okay, and then I will have, I think, might have okay, no. Okay, I'm just gonna move this back. Um, and you can see this first support is actually pretty significant because it has, price has tested this level a couple times in the past. Okay, let's see. My 78 kind of lines up with um my first resistance. Okay, so yeah, I'm gonna label this as my confluence area since we have two Fibonacci levels that line up. Okay, so in this case, I'm expecting prices to drop here. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna put this as my first support and this as my intermediate resistance support. Okay, so again, your partial profit would be this intermediate level, and your take profit would be at your first support. Looking at our indicators again, pretty bearish signals on our MACD. Okay, so that supports our analysis, whereas our Ichimoku doesn't. If we look at our moving averages, okay, price is moving below the moving averages, so that also supports our analysis. If we look at Bollinger Bands, no. Um, on our stochastic, we have this intermediate or rather hidden resistance, okay, which basically means that if you look at all of the peaks that we have, right, price has actually been making lower lows. You can see from this peak to this peak, it actually made a lower low, but this maintained at that same resistance level. This area was kind of the same as well, but here, right, we see it make another dip here. So this kind of suggests that price is going to continue to drop in that same pattern. Okay, so that's for UK oil. Yeah, USDT. Okay, so yeah, these are slightly harder to analyze the same way that we do for the other commodities and currency pairs. Okay, let's see weekly. Oh, okay, I'm gonna go in first oh, with our projections. Oh wait, this is weekly time frame. Uh, okay, I'm gonna analyze it by the Fibonacci levels. Okay, so here I have a projection first. Okay, so my 61.8, that's where I'm gonna place my pivot. Okay, my first resistance, I'm going to place at the 78.6. Okay, and then for my first support, I'm just going to place it here. Just so that we have some levels for reference. Okay, going in with retracement. Hmm. 38.2 lines up with my first support. Okay, and my minus 61.8 also lines up with my first resistance. Okay, so let me get rid of this 0. Yep, so we do have this confluence area here, which might attract price. Okay, but currently price is testing the pivot level. So if it bounces off, then we're going for a buy towards this first resistance. Okay, since the general trend has been pretty bullish so far. Okay, let's look at dollar yen. So on our weekly time frame, prices look like they are moving upwards. Daily time frame as well. If we look at our 4 hours, yeah, let's analyze this on our 4 hour time frame. So I'm gonna place my pivot over here and my first support at the swing low. Okay, my pivot is in line with the 145, but I'm gonna place my first resistance at this swing high. Okay, in line with the 161. 145 and 161. Okay. Now I'm gonna go in with my projections again. Okay, my 78.6. So 61.8 is in line with the first support, but it's already been broken out of. So I'm not gonna use that. Instead, I have this plus resistance that's in line with the 78.6. Okay, and I'm going in with a retracement. 23.6 lines up with my first support. So for these kind of charts where you see prices moving upwards and there aren't any higher levels of reference, this is kind of what you would do. Um, look for your projections, which is this tool here where there are 3 points, so that you can project where prices are headed towards. And also look for if there are any Nike ticks, then you're going for your extensions. So you can see here very clearly the Nike tick shape. Yeah. Okay, we might also have Yeah, so minus 27.2, this is actually our Fibonacci expansion, which I've never really used here except for when it comes to projecting the levels. But they can be used normally with your projections because the shape that we're looking for is very similar. So for expansions as well as projections, we will use the lightning bolt kind of shape. Okay. Yeah, let's look at our indicators. Um, MACD is pretty bullish. Ichimoku is bullish. Bollinger Bands aren't telling us much. Um, Stochastic, it might be moving in an ascending trend line. Yeah. Okay. So it's also bullish. Yeah. Okay, so don't be afraid to zoom out and see if you can find any other shapes or any other levels, or zoom in to, yeah, find other levels as well. Yeah. So if you're not that familiar with expansion, since I did briefly talk about it today, you can take a look at this website. If you were here in the morning, I talked about it already. But yeah, so it's completely free to use. We have some YouTube videos as well you can check out. So extensions are the Nike tick shape that I showed you earlier. The retracements are those that I use really often. Some guidelines here are some steps for beginners. Yeah, so this is what I did earlier, the expansions, where I looked at the minus 27 as well as the minus 61 in order to project the levels. Um, yeah. So we get a little bit more in depth into these during our Fibonacci series, so stay tuned for that. It's a four-part series where we talk about the different examples for the four different Fibonacci techniques. Yeah, but in the meantime, if you are new to Fibonacci and you are curious, you can feel free to check out this website. It's just theforexarmy.com. We have a bunch of other trading guides as well that are completely free for you to use, so go ahead and take a look at that. Okay, especially looking for confluence areas, that would probably be the most important part, being able to identify these levels. Okay, yeah, we have some trade management techniques as well. This is one rule that we live by when it comes to trade management with confluence or any big resistance or support levels. Yeah, um, I think that's it for today's session. Um, yeah, thank you guys so much for joining me today. I hope you guys found the session helpful. If you guys liked this session, feel free to find me on LinkedIn. It's just my name, Melanie Chong. And yeah, I'll see you guys again next week. Have a great rest of your week. Bye, everyone. Thanks, guys. Bye, everyone.